Hey, what's up, everyone? Today, we're diving deep into something that's probably keeping you up at night, those so-called friends who might actually be your worst enemies. You know that gut feeling when something's just off? Well, stick around, because I'm about to show you 6 mind-blowing signs that'll help you spot these wolves in sheep's clothing. And the best part? We're using ancient Stoic wisdom to break it all down. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine thinking someone's got your back for years, only to discover they've been secretly working against you the whole time. Brutal, right? But here's the thing. The ancient Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, they knew this game all too well. They weren't just philosophers sitting in ivory towers. They were dealing with the exact same human drama we face today. So, let's cut through the noise and get to the real truth about friendship, betrayal, and personal power. Before we dive in, remember this. Knowledge is power, but wisdom is knowing how to use it. These signs aren't about becoming paranoid. They're about becoming aware. By the end of this video, you'll have the tools to protect yourself while staying true to your values. Ready? Let's get into it. Sign number 1, the energy vampire. You know that feeling when you leave a conversation feeling completely drained? That's not just a coincidence, and the Stoics had a lot to say about this. In their wisdom, they recognized that true friendship should be energizing, not depleting. Let's break this down. Think about how your body physically reacts when you're around this person. Do your shoulders tense up? Does your stomach knot? The Stoics taught us that our physical responses often reveal truths our conscious mind hasn't processed yet. These aren't random reactions. They're your body's early warning system. A real energy vampire doesn't just take your time. They systematically drain your emotional resources. They might dominate every conversation with their problems, but when it's your turn to share, they're mysteriously distracted or dismissive. This isn't just being self-centered, it's a calculated pattern. The most insidious part? They often disguise their energy-draining behavior as just being honest or looking out for you. They'll criticize your dreams under the guise of being realistic, slowly chipping away at your confidence and aspirations. The Stoics would call this a form of false friendship, one that weakens rather than strengthens. Remember what Seneca said about true friendship. It should elevate both parties. If you're consistently feeling diminished after interactions, that's not friendship. That's emotional parasitism. They're not just having a bad day. They're actively feeding off your energy. These people often show up strongest when you're succeeding or feeling good about yourself. They'll find subtle ways to undermine your achievements or question your methods. It's like they have a radar for your high moments and feel compelled to bring you down. This type of friend will also try to make you dependent on their approval. They might offer praise, but it's always conditional, always tied to whether you're acting in ways they deem acceptable. This creates an unhealthy dynamic where you're constantly seeking their validation. The Stoic response to energy vampires isn't to confront them or call them out. It's to strengthen your own emotional boundaries. Start paying attention to how you feel before, during, and after interactions with them. Document these patterns if you need to. When you're around them, practice what the Stoics called the inner citadel, maintaining your emotional fortress regardless of external attacks. This doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means protecting your energy while remaining composed. Notice how they react when you start setting boundaries or limiting your availability. A true friend will respect these boundaries. An enemy disguised as a friend will push against them, often aggressively or through guilt, tripping. The key to dealing with energy vampires is not to try to change them, but to change your response to them. The Stoics emphasized focusing on what's within our control, in this case, our own reactions and boundaries. Remember, energy is a finite resource. The Stoics taught that we should be mindful of where we invest it. If someone consistently depletes rather than replenishes your energy, that's not just a red flag, it's a blaring alarm. The most important thing to understand about energy vampires is that their behavior rarely changes. Just as Epictetus advised us to accept things as they are, accept that this person's nature is to drain others. Your job isn't to fix them, it's to protect yourself. Sign number 2, The information broker. In today's hyper-connected world, this sign is more relevant than ever. The information broker is someone who seems to know everything about everyone, and they're always eager to share. But here's where it gets interesting. The Stoics had a deep understanding of how information can be weaponized. These friends collect information like others collect stamps, methodically and with purpose. They're always asking questions, always probing, but not out of genuine interest. They're building an arsenal of information they can use later. What makes them particularly dangerous is their ability to connect dots that shouldn't be connected. They'll take something you said months ago and combine it with recent events to create narratives that serve their purposes. It's like they're constantly building a case against everyone they know. The information broker has mastered the art of casual conversation with an agenda. They'll drop hints about knowing things about your life that you haven't shared with them, creating a subtle sense of unease. This is their way of demonstrating power. They often position themselves as the go-to person for gossip and updates about others' lives. But remember what Marcus Aurelius said about gossip. It's a reflection of the gossiper's character, not the subject's. These friends use information as currency in their social transactions. Watch how they handle confidential information about others. If they're willing to share other secrets with you, you can bet they're sharing yours with someone else. The Stoics emphasize the importance of discretion in true friendship. Pay attention to how they react when you don't share information freely. A true friend respects your privacy. An information broker will take offense at being left out of the loop. They might even try to make you feel guilty for maintaining healthy boundaries. Notice their pattern of spreading information. They often start conversations with, "Don't tell anyone," but, or, "I probably shouldn't tell you this." This is their way of making you feel special, while simultaneously compromising your integrity by involving you in their information trading. The information broker will also test your loyalty by sharing false information to see if it comes back to them through the grapevine. This is a manipulative tactic that the Stoics would have recognized as a form of character assassination. One of their most effective techniques is using information to isolate you from others. They might share selective or distorted versions of events to create misunderstandings between friends, positioning themselves as the only reliable ally. The Stoic approach to dealing with an information broker is to be mindful of what you share. As Epictetus taught, we should be careful about what we let into our minds, and equally careful about what we let out. They often justify their behavior as just keeping everyone in the loop, or making sure everyone knows what's going on. But remember, true friendship doesn't require constant surveillance or information gathering. The most effective defense against an information broker is radical transparency with your true friends and selective silence with the broker themselves. Create an information desert around them while maintaining open communication with those you trust. Sign number 3, the success saboteur. This is where things get really interesting, because the success saboteur operates in ways that are so subtle, you might not notice until it's too late. The Stoics understood that true virtue includes celebrating others' successes, not diminishing them. These friends have mastered the art of the backhanded compliment. They'll congratulate you on your promotion while adding, "You must be so relieved, given how stressed you've been lately." It's praise wrapped in poison, designed to make you question your achievements. Watch how they react to your good news. A success saboteur will often respond with what psychologists call one-upmanship. They'll immediately share a story about their own bigger, better achievement. The Stoics would see this as a clear sign of insecurity masquerading as friendship. They're experts at planting seeds of doubt right before important moments in your life. They might share a concerning article about your industry right before your job interview, or mention how many relationships fail right before your wedding. These aren't coincidences. A particularly dangerous aspect of the success saboteur is their ability to make their discouragement seem like concern. They'll say things like, "I just don't want you to get hurt," or "I'm trying to help you be realistic." This is manipulation disguised as care. Notice how they frame your successes to others. They might emphasize the role of luck rather than your hard work, or subtly imply that you've changed for the worse since achieving success. This is their way of controlling the narrative around your achievement. The success saboteur often uses comparison as a weapon. They'll constantly remind you of others who tried similar things and failed, or point out people who achieved more in less time. This is designed to make you question your own path and pace. Pay attention to their timing. These friends often become most concerned about your choices when you're on the verge of a breakthrough. They'll raise doubts exactly when you need confidence the most. The Stoics would recognize this as a test of your resolve. They're masters at creating self-doubt through questions. Are you sure you're ready for this? Don't you think this is moving a bit fast? These questions aren't seeking answers. They're planting seeds of uncertainty. The success saboteur will often try to keep you in your comfort zone under the guise of protection. They'll remind you of past failures or setbacks when you're trying to move forward, using your history as a chain to bind you to the past. Watch how they frame risk and reward. While the Stoics taught us to be rational about risk assessment, the success saboteur will catastrophize every potential negative outcome while minimizing potential benefits. This isn't wisdom. It's fear mongering. They might even use your own virtues against you, suggesting that ambition is vanity or that seeking success means you're becoming materialistic. This is a particularly insidious form of manipulation that tries to create conflict between your goals and your values. The most important thing to remember about success saboteurs is that their behavior reveals more about their own fears and limitations than about your capabilities. As Marcus Aurelius taught us, the opinion of others shouldn't deter us from our righteous path. Sign number 4. The Fairweather Tactician. This sign is particularly crucial because it exposes the true nature of loyalty, or rather, its absence. The Fairweather Tactician is someone who's mastered the art of strategic friendship, and the Stoics had plenty to say about such calculated relationships. These friends are conspicuously present during your high points, but mysteriously absent during your struggles. Unlike genuine friends who stick with you through thick and thin, they operate like social investors, only showing up when there's something to gain. Watch how they position themselves in your social circle. They're experts at being close enough to benefit from your success, but far enough to avoid any fallout from your setbacks. This calculated distance is something the Stoics would have recognized as a form of moral cowardice. The Fairweather Tactician keeps meticulous track of social debts and favors, but only calls them in when it's advantageous. They might remind you of that small favor they did months ago, right when they need something significant from you. Notice their reaction when you face challenges. Instead of offering support, they often respond with, "I told you so," or share how they saw it coming. This isn't wisdom, it's an attempt to establish superiority through hindsight. They're masters at rewriting history. When you're successful, they'll emphasize how they always believed in you. During setbacks, they'll claim they tried to warn you. This selective memory serves their narrative of being both supportive and wise. Pay attention to how they treat others in your circle. The Fairweather Tactician often maintains a network of conditional friendships, adjusting their loyalty based on who's currently most useful to them. The Stoics would view this as a form of social manipulation. These friends are experts at creating the illusion of depth in shallow waters. They'll share enough personal information to seem vulnerable while carefully avoiding any real emotional investment or risk. Watch how they handle group dynamics. They often position themselves as mediators or peacekeepers, not out of genuine concern for harmony, but to gather intelligence and maintain influence over multiple parties. The Fairweather Tactician is particularly skilled at maintaining plausible deniability. They'll never explicitly betray you. Instead, they'll create situations where their absence or inaction during crucial moments can be explained away with reasonable excuses. Notice their pattern of availability. They're always around for public celebrations and visible successes, but have consistent excuses for missing private struggles or less glamorous moments. This isn't coincidence, it's strategy. They often use their understanding of your principles against you. They might appeal to your sense of loyalty or forgiveness when their fair-weather nature becomes apparent, knowing that your virtues make you more likely to overlook their tactical friendships. The most important thing to understand about fair-weather tacticians is that they view friendship as a transaction rather than a bond. As Seneca noted, true friendship is based on character and virtue, not utility. Sign number 5. The emotional manipulator. This sign is perhaps the most sophisticated because it operates at the intersection of friendship and psychology. The emotional manipulator uses your own emotions as leverage, something the Stoics specifically warned against in their teachings about emotional independence. These friends have an uncanny ability to trigger your emotional responses. They know exactly what buttons to push to make you feel guilty, angry, or insecure. This isn't emotional intelligence, it's emotional warfare. Watch how they use your past experiences and vulnerabilities. They'll often bring up sensitive topics or past struggles at strategic moments, not for genuine discussion, but to destabilize you emotionally when it serves their purposes. The emotional manipulator is an expert at creating emotional debt. They'll do something nice for you, then remind you of it repeatedly, often when they need you to feel obligated. This isn't generosity. It's a form of emotional lending with high interest. Notice their pattern of emotional availability. They're extremely supportive when it allows them to gather more emotional intelligence about you, but mysteriously unavailable when you need genuine support that doesn't serve their interests. They're masters at using the push-pull technique. One day they're incredibly supportive and present, the next they're distant and critical. This inconsistency is designed to keep you emotionally off balance and seeking their approval. Pay attention to how they handle your boundaries. When you try to establish emotional distance, they'll often respond with intensity, either through excessive affection or dramatic displays of hurt. Both responses are designed to make you question your judgment. The emotional manipulator often uses selective vulnerability as a tool. They'll share enough personal struggles to seem authentic, but these revelations are calculated to create emotional reciprocity they can later leverage. Watch how they respond to your emotional growth. As you become more stable and independent, they often escalate their tactics, creating crisis situations that require your emotional investment and attention. These friends are particularly skilled at using group dynamics for emotional manipulation. They might triangulate relationships, sharing different versions of events with different people to create emotional chaos while maintaining their position as a stable influence. Notice how they frame their emotional needs. While everyone has legitimate emotional needs, the emotional manipulator presents theirs as obligations you must fulfill to be considered a good friend. This is emotional extortion, not friendship. They often use your emotional responses to paint you as unstable or oversensitive to others. This is a preemptive tactic to discredit your eventual recognition of their manipulation. The Stoics would recognize this as a form of gaslighting. The most crucial thing to understand about emotional manipulators is that they thrive on emotional dependence. As Epictetus taught, true freedom comes from emotional self-sufficiency, exactly what these false friends try to prevent. Sign number 6. The competitive underminer. This final sign is particularly deceptive because it masks itself in the guise of friendly competition. The competitive underminer turns every aspect of life into a contest, but unlike healthy competition that pushes both parties to grow, their goal is to establish dominance. These friends have turned comparison into an art form. They're constantly measuring their life against yours, but it's not about mutual motivation, it's about finding ways to prove their superiority or diminish your achievements. Watch how they handle your successes. Instead of genuine celebration, they'll often respond with stories of their own accomplishments or subtle ways to downplay your achievement. The Stoics would recognize this as a form of ego-driven insecurity. The competitive underminer is particularly skilled at creating no-win situations. They'll challenge you to compete in areas where they excel, then use your reluctance as proof of your inadequacy. If you accept and succeed, they'll change the rules or dismiss the importance of that particular achievement. Pay attention to how they frame your shared experiences. Every interaction becomes a subtle competition: who has the better story, who handled a situation more effectively, who has more knowledge about a topic. This constant one-upmanship isn't friendly banter, it's a power play. These friends often use constructive criticism as a weapon. They'll offer unsolicited advice or point out flaws in your approach, not to help you improve, but to establish their expertise and diminish your confidence. The Stoics would see through this false wisdom. Notice their reaction when you opt out of their competitive dynamic. A true friend respects your choice to pursue your own path, but the competitive underminer often responds with mockery or attempts to paint you as afraid of challenge. They're experts at moving the goalposts. When you achieve something they've been competing with you about, they'll suddenly shift focus to a different metric or achievement. This ensures they always have something to hold over you. Watch how they handle situations where you clearly excel. They'll often try to reframe the conversation to highlight areas where they feel superior, or they'll dismiss your area of excellence as unimportant. This is their way of maintaining their perceived position of superiority. The competitive underminer frequently uses hypotheticals to establish dominance. They'll create scenarios where they would theoretically outperform you, using these imaginary situations as proof of their superior capabilities. Pay attention to their storytelling patterns. When sharing experiences, they consistently position themselves as the hero, the expert, or the voice of reason. Your role in their stories is often minimized or used as a contrast to highlight their better judgment or abilities. These friends are particularly skilled at using social comparison to create insecurity. They'll often bring up mutual acquaintances who are doing better or handling things differently, not to inspire, but to suggest you're falling behind. The most dangerous aspect of the competitive underminer is how they can make you doubt your own path. By constantly suggesting there's a better way, their way, they attempt to derail your natural growth and development. The Stoics would recognize this as a direct attack on personal sovereignty. Now that we've uncovered these 6 signs, you might be feeling overwhelmed or even a bit paranoid. But remember what Marcus Aurelius taught us: the best revenge is to be unlike those who cause harm. This knowledge isn't meant to make you suspicious of everyone. It's meant to empower you to cultivate authentic relationships. Let's talk about what to do with this information. The Stoic approach isn't about confrontation or dramatic endings. It's about quiet strength and gradual realignment. Start by observing these patterns in your relationships without immediate reaction. Document them if you need to. Build your case quietly, and most importantly, trust your instincts. Remember, the goal isn't to cut people out dramatically, but to create healthy boundaries that protect your peace of mind. Sometimes, the most powerful move is simply to become unavailable to manipulation. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." If this video resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more ancient wisdom applied to modern problems. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes, seeing these patterns clearly is the first step to breaking free from toxic friendship. Drop a comment below sharing your experiences with these types of friends and how you handled it. Let's learn from each other. Remember, recognizing these signs doesn't make you cynical, it makes you wise. True friendship elevates both parties, challenges you to grow, and stands the test of time. Don't settle for less than you deserve. Until next time, stay strong, stay wise, and most importantly, stay true to yourself.